What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the Bestech Bison. You can see I've got two different models here, one in carbon fiber and one in G10, and that's because those are the two variants that this knife comes in. This knife was provided for review by the Pass Around Group, which means by extension it came from Bestech themselves, so I appreciate that. As usual, I will not allow that to affect my review. It should be pretty easy because I don't get to review the knives. If you're new to my channel, I like to do knife reviews, knife overviews, such as the ones you're seeing here. I also like to do unboxings, I like to do discussion topics, and I've got a Knife Guy series on Sundays. If you like regular content uploads that are surrounding, knife stuff, this might be the channel for you. I upload daily, literally every single day, sometimes twice a day. So if that sounds good, go ahead and hit subscribe and make sure your notifications are set to all because there's definitely more content coming. Anyways, let's go ahead and get a measurement here on these guys. Boy, do I have a lot to say about these. Took me a little bit to gather my thoughts. 8 1/4 inches overall. I don't know why I'm measuring both, but I'm going to. Tip to scale, you're looking at, in places, 3.6 or 3.7, and other places 3.75 or even 3.9. Truthfully, I'd call it about a 3.6 inch blade, maybe 3.7 at most. The cutting edge is coming in at exactly 3 1/4. It's a very generous forward choil there, which is what's creating the massive difference between overall blade length and cutting edge. As you guys know, that's a sweet spot for me. I'm a big fan of knives that are 8 1/4. That's kind of exactly where I like to be. I'm going to move one off camera here so I can do some size comparisons. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall, so you can see they're just a little bit bigger. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. 8.3? Wait a minute here. What's going on? Let's measure this again. 8 1/4. What on earth is going on with the camera? Oh, because this needs to be scooted back a little bit. Is that it? So the camera angle is ever so slightly off, and for whatever reason, despite me having it hover directly over these knives, there's something actually throwing off the difference in length with these two knives. I'll tell you this. This is weird. I haven't had this happen before. The Spyderco PM2 is legitimately a hair longer than the Bestech Bison, despite it not appearing that way at the moment on camera. Overhead view doesn't fix everything, I guess. Up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall, that one being easy to see there. And last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Para 3 coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. To give you guys an example of the action here, this is a titanium frame lock running on bearings. Not quite full shut, but my God, is it smooth. It feels good, it feels snappy. The detent is the right amount of clickiness. The flipper tab is the right shape to give you that satisfying deployment. And then the actual fall shut action or the feeling of the pivot is quite smooth. Not absolutely smooth, but smooth enough, and you can definitely just give it a little bit of encouragement there and get it to fall back into the handle. Really, really nice action. Very happy with that. That's awesome. Let's go ahead and weigh it here real quick. Total weight on the Bestech Bison coming in at 4.27 ounces. 4.27 ounces. Let's weigh the carbon fiber one. 4.2 ounces and 4.16 ounces. So the carbon fiber variant weighs ever so slightly less. Let's have a look inside of this knife here real quick. You can see there is some milling on the inside of the titanium, and check this out. There's actually a little tiny sub liner that just runs down. You can see it right there, the metal. It just runs down this portion of the back, like half of it, but I believe it runs underneath the backspacer at least to about here. I mean, obviously it's not going to come out here unless they're very specific on getting it around that lanyard hole. I'm guessing it's a 3/4 liner that only runs about half the length of the or half the width of the scale. I have never seen that before. Let's take a look at the inside of this one. Yeah, same thing. It's in there too. It's on the top of the carbon fiber. It's hard for you guys to see. I wonder, whoop, that's not going to work. I wonder if I can get this to dim just a little bit and see if we can get the right amount of light in there. Yeah, you can see the metal in there a little bit. Flashlight's EGTAC D3C, if you guys are wondering. Love this flashlight. It's got those adjustable things there. So yeah, interesting on the inside. There is technically a little bit of a steel liner, which I'll take if I can get. You know, G10 in this thickness, or even half the thickness, is plenty strong. Combined with titanium, there's no issue there, but I'm always happy to see a countersunk steel liner of any size inside of a knife like this. It just adds that additional feeling of security. Let's measure the blade thickness here real quick. Turn on my super incredibly high-tech and very fancy calipers. Blade thickness on this guy coming in at 150 thousandths. This thing is a slight bit inaccurate, so it could be 145, just to let you guys know. But yeah, that's what it looks like, is roughly the same thickness as the PM2 at 145 thousandths, perhaps slightly thicker. So this knife right there is hitting a lot of sweet spots for me. You guys know that my tastes and my preferences are largely based off of the Hinder XM18, and I will show you the XM18 and its profile up against the Bison, and I can tell you right now, I mean, you guys can see why right off the bat I am very partial to this knife. It kind of has lines in the same areas. You can see ergonomic lines are very, very similar. Choils are in the same place, except this actually has a larger choil. Really, really cool. So you can see here variances. I mean, there's G10 and there's carbon fiber, and then there's also these two different finishes. Now, I honestly don't know if you can get that black washed finish in G10 or not. What I saw immediately was that it was only with the carbon fiber scale, but you guys can take a look if you want. I do know there is at least green and black G10, and there is the satin finish available on both. If you want satin finish with carbon fiber, then great. You can see here we have a nice, light, fine grain structured tumbling finish on here, and then we've also got D2 steel. Is that weird? Am I the only one who thinks that's weird? This is legitimately titanium, D2, bearings, lock bar insert, G10 on the other side, or carbon fiber. Made in China. These Bestech knives are made in China. Now, Bestech has a premium line, and you see a lot of S35VN with double-sided titanium and carbon fiber, or M390. And then you have their budget line, which is generally G10 and steel liners on a liner lock, and then D2 steel, right? You don't see it in titanium often. In fact, you don't see that really not very much at all, and that's because of what happens to the price on these. It puts them in kind of a weird spot. We'll talk about that. And that was my first cringe. When I looked at that, I thought, oh no. If you guys remember, I reviewed this knife, and I'll bring it over here, the Real Steel Control. G10, D2, and a frame lock. And I thought, oh no, is it titanium? Because that would do things to the price that a lot of people may not like. No, it turns out this is steel, so this is still a $35 knife. Titanium is substantially more expensive than steel, and it creates an issue with the price, which, like I said, we'll talk about. So this actually is this actually is that fear. Now, if you watched my Knife Guy series on Sunday, you'll know that this one actually ended up poking me in the leg on accident, and what that caused was a psychological reaction to it, where I ended up studying it really hard and thinking about it, because I was concerned with the outcome on the price, and I sort of, that clashed in my head with my overall thoughts of this, and so we're going to get into that, the result of that. What we've got here on the anatomy is a drop point, or I mean it's a drop point blade, but you can see there what's going on here with the swedge and the bevel down to the cutting edge. It's got this nice curvature to it, curves out to the tip. The swedge, actually, the flat of the blade only comes out about maybe 25%, though despite that, there is reasonable thickness carried down to the tip. You can see the tip there compared to the tip on the PM2. We're still a little bit more robust on the Bison. This looks really nice, and actually the end result is not the most incredibly thin thing behind the edge, but it certainly feels slicey and capable. Honestly, it feels somewhere between it's right around what the Manix 2 feels like, maybe a little bit thicker behind the edge than the Manix 2, not quite what the Shaman is, but definitely capable. I mean, this is a nice straightforward drop point blade that's going to be good at delicate tasks, and it's also going to be good at more of your hard use style outdoor tasks as well. Nice functional jimping up top. All of the edges have been nicely chamfered and rounded all the way around, so this is smooth, nothing that's going to catch on your fingernail. Really looks nice. Love how Bestech does their logo. Thank you for not doing anything crazy. And then they just put D2 on the other side. Really nice. Here's my favorite part of the blade. Look how roomy that choil is. Oh my gosh. I can get the full meat of my finger up there. That is how you do a choil. Okay? Any knife makers or manufacturers, not that my channel has that much pull, but this is just my preferences coming out in the dialogue. This size of choil is awesome because I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, or I can do this. All of my knuckles fit inside of that choil, and I like that, and I don't feel like I'm going to run my finger up on the blade. Obviously, you're not going to have an issue sharpening this other than where your clamps might sit. That might actually be a problem. You don't have a flat up here. So sharpening this is going to be a little bit of an issue. I'll say I love how the blade looks aesthetically, but a big part of a good blade is having a flat where people who are freehand sharpening, they're not going to care. But people like me who have a guided system and use that, a lot of people in the comment section go, you should learn to freehand sharpen, and then that wouldn't be an issue. A lot of us like guided systems, and a flat carried out in this blade just a bit further will technically increase the strength of the blade just a little bit more without sacrificing any meaningful thinness behind the edge or cutting performance, and it'll provide a place for a clamp or a guided sharpening system to attach to the blade. That's all I'm going to say about that. Not that big of a deal. Moving on here, we have nicely rounded off G10 scales with a bit of peel ply texturing. We have a decorative front side pivot. The adjustment side is on the back. You can see it's a simple Torx head. Moving down here, there's plenty of room in here to make use of it's a meaningful primary choil. I'm so used to being like, there's plenty of room to get your finger behind a thumb stud, but there's no thumb stud there. So it's basically just a big open area to get meaningful traction behind the finger choil. All the way around, front scale looks great. You do have those stupid little tiny screws that I hate. Whatever. I complain about that every single time. Let's just change that, please. I don't like those. Plenty of room in this lanyard hole to put some 550 and it'll move around. Love the backspacer, nice and flush. Semi-gear pattern going all the way around to the butt. Really nice. You have a very simple popsicle stick style pocket clip. Don't have an issue with it. I don't really like skinny clips, but this is in between a skinny and a fat clip. It looks just fine, no issues. I do like that there's some reasonable thickness behind here, and the bill, the bill of the pocket clip doesn't stick up high enough where I worry about it catching on things. It's also one of those knives where I can easily get it in and out of my pocket with one hand, so no issues there. Carries about right here, not a lot sticking up. And I notice, oh my gosh, there's only one screw in there. Is there play in it? Nope, because it's actually set down into... What's going on here, guys? You run out of batteries? Oh, okay, that was weird. There's actually... you can see it's actually set into the titanium. I don't know if we're actually going to be able to view that, but yeah, it's actually, there's a little spot milled out in there for the pocket clip, and that relieves any potential for play in the pocket clip, which is nice. I really hate that when there's play. I also took a really close-up look at this titanium, and you can actually see behind the tumbling, there's milling lines, and it adds another extremely fine level of detail. Come on, camera, quit shaking. It adds an extremely fine level of detail to a knife that already has some nice finishing touches on it. Can you see what I'm talking about there? Lines running this way, just almost like little tiny micro lines. It's really nice. I mean, I don't know if it's just a product of the machining process or what, but I really like it. This does have a steel lock bar insert that doubles as an over travel stop. Everything's nicely rounded off. The centering came absolutely perfect on both of them. They lock out solid, no blade play up, down, left, or right. I'll give you a look at the carbon fiber one. This one's a little bit off, but I think it just needs to be tightened a little bit because it did come centered when it got to me. No blade play on this guy, up, down, left, or right. The action feels about the same, and the detent feels about the same, which is nice to see consistency between the two. Truthfully, all the way around, I have so few complaints about this. I love how the blade looks. Wish it had more of a flat so I could clamp it. I love the choil. I don't like the little tiny screws, but it's not really that big of a deal. And then I don't have any problems with this size of it, or this side of it. It's also a size that I like. It's got the action I like. It's definitely got the ergonomics I like. Oh my gosh, so comfortable. My hand doesn't even register that there's a pocket clip there. This is so straightforward and functional. I love a simplistic design. And you guys know, because I've been saying this for a long time, I am a huge fan of Bestech. Every time I handle another one of their models, I'm like, man, it's like my thought process syncs up really, really well with Bestech designs. I really, really like them. I'll say this, if this one's not doing it for you visually, go look at their line. My favorite budget knife of all time is the Bestech Lion. Yes, even over the Rat. I did that video. The Rat was number 2. But it's just amazing. And for the price, you can get it like 40 bucks. It's incredible. And if you want to spend more money than that and you want to get a more, quality piece, you can spend around $200 and get something from Bestech with a design like this that feels and looks like what ZT should be doing right now. I know there's a lot of people who agreed with that comment in my ZT video a while back. Bestech and and Riot and a lot of these Chinese companies are stepping up and doing what ZT should be doing. But anyways, you can get that from them. I love this. There's only one issue with this knife. Truthfully, there's only one major issue with this knife, and it's going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people. Because the frame lock side is actually titanium, this is a $110 knife, and this is a $128 knife. I've always said this. D2 is a great budget steel. In fact, it's probably the best budget steel that you can get right now other than 154 cm. And by budget, to me, I mean definitely under $100, more around the $50 to $75 mark and below if you can get it. So what we have here is a knife design, G10 and titanium and bearings that is acceptable all the way up to the $200, $250 mark sometimes by a lot of people. And in the case of Hinderer knives, it's, in my opinion, acceptable all the way up to $425. Not everybody shares that opinion, but that's fine. But here's the problem. And fit and finish, all that is acceptable all the way. I mean, this has fit and finish that is indicative of a $200 knife in my opinion. But then we have D2 steel. And some people aren't going to care about that. And truthfully, as a performer, it's going to be just fine. At 110 bucks, 128 bucks for the carbon fiber, as a performer, D2 is just fine. The problem is that in most people's eyes, in terms of the knife community, D2 no longer belongs on a knife that's over 100 bucks. The last really good D2 knife that I can remember that was over 100 bucks that was widely accepted by the knife community, now there's probably others, but I'm thinking of the Benchmade 710. 130 bucks, G10 steel liners and D2. It's discontinued. I don't think people are really going to like that. But here's what I'm going to say. The design on this is so good. Now, some people are going to agree with me and some people aren't on the steel thing. If you're okay with D2, well, here you go, buddy. This is a perfect knife. You're good. If you're not okay with D2, let me make a case for this. It bothers me too. It bothers me a little bit that I have to pay 110 bucks for this one down here because I'm not interested in the carbon fiber. I'd go D2. I'd go tumbled finish and a black G10 scale. This knife is designed almost flawlessly. It is a wonderful tool, functionally, aesthetically, and in terms of the fine details, it's amazing. If you go ahead and spend the money on it, the only thing that might be slightly obnoxious is the fact that you paid 110 bucks for D2 steel. If this was a $75 to $85 knife, it'd be a heavy yes all day. I love it. But it's like right when you get to that $100 mark, it's why? It's because they mix D2 with a titanium frame lock. Bestech, here's what you need to do. Textured titanium on both sides, make this M390 and charge 225 bucks for it, and I will be all over that. All over it, absolutely. This design just needs to be in your premium line. If you're gonna go this route, it needs to be G10, steel liners and a liner lock in D2, and charge me 40 bucks for it or 50 bucks for it, whatever. This is a great knife. I'm gonna go ahead and recommend it. I might regret it, but it's the only downside is the price. That's gonna be it. So anyways, guys, that's gonna be pretty much it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to take, I forgot to mention, they do have anodized, this one has an anodized backspacer and an anodized pocket clip. I just completely forgot to mention that. But anyways, If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Just click the Metal Complex logo that's on the screen right now. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.